Do you know what football is? No, not that lame American football. I'm talking about football, real football, the one played around the world. I'm here to tell you why football is the best sport out there, and I hope by the end of this, you will see why it's the best sport in the world. I'm sure you've all seen the Super Bowl or an NBA final or even the World Series in baseball. But so just imagine that, but on the global level, and that is what football is. As a football fan for 15 years, watching teams win it all, seeing the fans celebrate like they won $1 million, I have come to see why football is as big as it is, and it continues to grow. Many of the things that I will tell you about, like the fans of the sport, the number of views, the many global events, will show you and convince you on why football is the best sport in the world. First, let's talk about one of the biggest aspects of the sport, and that is the fans of football. Fans have to be one of the most important parts of the sport. And you're wondering, how can they convince me that football is the best sport in the world? Football fans truly are something else. And the way they celebrate seems like they just won the lottery. For example, as you can see in this picture, the Morocco national team became the first team to advance in the semifinals of a World Cup in the history of an African team. It was celebrated around the world from people from Israel and Libya. As you can see, the fans represent there. There was also a coffee shop in the capital of Morocco that was filled to the brim, all just watching them beat Portugal and celebrating by hugging and jumping with each other, as you can see. When Inter Milan won the league championship, in 2021, they flooded the streets of Italy, lighting flares, fireworks, representing their club flag throughout the night. As you can see here, the street is filled to the brim, which is something you rarely see in America. But what happens during a game of football in the stands is what truly shows why the fans are what make the sport the best. A women's final played in Barcelona, Spain, filled the entire Camp Nou stadium with about 91,553, as you can see, all here just to watch one match. 90% of those fans represented FC Barcelona, and they were all chanting, being a Barca fan is the best there is, which radiates so much energy in the stadium. That passion is really shown here. Chants in football is what gets fans excited and passionate throughout a game, helping the team they support by giving them motivation, which is something you really don't see in American sports. Yeah, they do go there to represent, but nothing like this. And this is not even the biggest sports event. Fans also come from all over the world to support one team, which is unlike sports here in the US. In the World Cup, there are 32 different countries from all over the world that come see their one country to represent their national team. Here in the US, there are teams, but they only represent states or cities, which is not very diverse, and it's only American, so there's only so much diversity. So just imagine all those cultures, all those different countries. Like in the World Cup, 32 different countries. You get to see their cultures and you get to learn about them, unlike any other sport, whether you're at home or in the stadium. So we see how fans play a big part in the sport and why it's so big. But how does it fare in views compared to other sports? Football is a sport that is watched in almost every part of the world. So how do the views fare? To put it into perspective, the most watched Super Bowl in 2015, which is considered to be the equivalent of the World Cup and is arguably the biggest sports event, had 114.44 million people watching it live on TV. Now, the World Cup final in 2018, which is the equivalent of the Super Bowl, had a total of 517 million people watching it live on TV, which is 4.5 times more than a Super Bowl final. The NBA final, which is another big sports event that millions of people tune into every day, is also another sport that can be compared to the World Cup. The most watched NBA final had a total of 35.89 million viewers on live TV. Now, if we take that same number and compare it to the World Cup's numbers that I mentioned in my previous point, that is 14.4 times more viewers than an NBA final. Now that we've seen the views compared to other similar sports, let me tell you about the global events that truly brings everyone around the world together. There are many global events that happen every year in the world, and all of them have one thing in common, is bringing a large group of people from everywhere together. There are a total of 4 different tournaments played in 4 different continents around the world, as you can see here. The continents that are played in is North America, South America, Europe, and Africa. All of them together involve hundreds of countries participating. Imagine how many countries get represented and how many different cultures, religions, and ideals all get united because of these global events. And that is just on their own continent. You heard me talk about this global event many times throughout this presentation, and it is the World Cup, the biggest event in football. The World Cup is a culmination of all the different continents into one tournament to determine who the best in the world is. This is truly where every religion, race, ideal, country, passion is truly represented for the entire world to see. Wouldn't you want to see all that? And that's just in 64 matches played in the span of a month. Whereas in American sports, you have to wait months just to see all these different teams play. As I discussed, these global events are just what make the sport the best in the world and honestly is the biggest aspect of the sport. After all that I've talked about in this speech, you begin to see why this sport is as big as it is and why it is the best sport in the world. Hopefully, by talking about the fans of the sport, the number of views, and the global events, I convinced you on why football is the best sport in the world. There is a reason they call this sport the beautiful game, and it is because football truly is the best sport on planet Earth. Thank you.